that just doesn't have durability written all over it, does it? I mean, regardless of what you get out of him, you'd consider it a bonus, and you sure wouldn't want to have to depend on it just because. It could ruin his career.
Well, that's just it.
Yeah.
That's just it. He's coming back off serious stuff, and you gotta let that go at its own pace and can't be forced. It'd be nice if he's been pitching these simulated games, and it'd be nice if he could find his way into a real game, come August, which is possible. But to count on him in the biggest moments in September and hopefully October, I'm not sure you can go there. So that's my mini is just my minimum would be
one arm.
Get an arm that can start and go from there.
So I should have prefaced this. After the All-Star break, the Jays will have 66 games. 14 games will be played going into the trade deadline. So that leaves them after the trade deadline, assuming they do something on July 31st. Maybe they do it before. 52 games in 59 nights. And the other premise is you could look at it and say, well, they'll have clinched the division. I'm not counting on that. I mean, to me, that goes right to the end. So you may get extended on the last week or so of having to overplay, or you might use up a few arms, and you need the durability. So I would agree with you. The minimum for me is actually two arms, a starter and a bullpen pitcher. I was watching Steve Phillips on SportsCenter the other night, and he was talking about bringing in a reliever so you could move Hoffman a little deeper in terms of what he has to do, and just set him up better. And because of there's going to be a lot of wear and tear here. I would agree with that. I stayed away from adding a bat because I looked at it when Santander, Varsho, Vladdy, Jimenez. If Vladdy gets to where he should be, and if those other three guys are healthy and can contribute at a level they should, maybe you don't need a bat.
Yeah. That would be a big maybe, though, right?
Well, all of this is predicated with how big the lettering is on maybe.
Yeah, and I mean, if I'm going to my max, I'm going to want a bat because, Anthony Santander, there's a reason you brought him in, because he was a 44 home run guy a year ago, but he's giving you next to nothing this year, given the injury struggles, and you just have no idea what you're going to get if and when he gets over the injury struggles, right?
Because he wasn't established as a Blue Jay before.
And part of that was he clearly wasn't looking healthy, especially, before they sat him down. Before they sat him down, we were wondering why he was in the lineup, because he just didn't look like himself. And it was clearly an injury-related issue. So that's, that one's a tricky one too. But, I mean, you're not going to be able to have everything, but you do have to feel like there's a desperation here from this front office, right? Like, you hope there's a desperation from this front office, because they're...
Well, there should be.
Yeah, they're 9 years in here in the Shapiro-Atkins era and don't have a playoff win to their name. And how much longer can you go?
Well, look, we've already seen two press conferences where presidents from the Leafs and Raptors were fired or not renewed, however you want to say that. And so if you're the surviving tandem, you want it to be you next, because...
Take the hint.
Well, if there's disappointment here, I mean, would define disappointment, that would be missing the playoffs.
Well, and you might even say that you got to read the room when it comes to this trade deadline. Like, you wonder, that ownership is very attuned to what's going on in this town right now, because this is a big moment in Toronto sports history, right? Where Rogers Communications, which owned the Blue Jays, has owned the Blue Jays for a long time now, and has been the sole proprietor essentially of the Blue Jays for a long time. Now, essentially controls everything. Controls the Leafs, controls the Raptors, controls every piece of sporting infrastructure in this town, essentially, outside of Larry Tannenbaum's WNBA venture, right?
Yeah.
And the and a few other pieces, but I think there's a sensitivity there. Like, they just lost the popularity contest with Masai Ujiri in watching him walk out the door. There was quite a bit of backlash from that Keith Pelly press conference.
Yep.
Because I'm not sure that Pelly, who in his defense hasn't been in town for the last decade, flew in from England, he's only been here about a year, even though he's from here. I'm not sure he really read that situation perfectly in terms of the way they let Masai go. Doing it the day after the draft didn't look good. When you had draft picks coming in for a press conference, there's a lot to roll your eyes about with that move. So that one didn't sit well.
No, it was excuse me, clumsy.
Very clumsy.
Yeah.
Obviously the Shanna plan went kaput, and we all know how that went. That's understandable that Brendan Shanahan's not back. But again, You know, there's a sour taste around the Maple Leafs.
Okay, so just let me cut in for a second. Is the Shannon plan any different from Shapiro? It's almost the same
It's on a
length of
similar
time.
timeline. Yeah, I mean Shanahan got here a couple years before, but it's a similar timeline, and you know you could argue that there's been more more squandered in Shapiro's era here, because it's not like they haven't won a playoff game. Like it's not like they haven't really even gotten going. Like at least the Leafs had a couple of series to their credit under Shanahan, and we all know. Look, they came close to getting to an Eastern Final, and if they get to that Eastern Final this year, Jim, not that I don't think any of us think they're a comparable team to the Florida Panthers, but they had a really good chance to upset the Florida Panthers. If they would have done that, I think Shanahan would still be hanging around here. You know, I'm not sure what kind of extension he would have gotten, but I think he would have still been the president of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, but that would have been with a really nice playoff run in his back pocket.
Yeah,
but Shapiro's got nothing of that sort on his resume.
I mean, you could literally apply the logic for both outgoing presidents to the Blue Jay boss.
Exactly.
It'd be no different.
And it would be a very simple explanation for whoever makes the announcement. It's, hey, we feel like we've left potential on the table here, and we feel this organization needs a new set of eyes, understanding how to take it to the next level.
Literally use the same script.
Very simple.
Yeah.
These guys. So all I'm saying is I think you want to know who's got a lot of pressure on them right now. It's those two guys. It's those two executives. Because I think, like, if ownership's always watching, Jim, ownership's always looking over your shoulder, no matter what you're doing in the sports world. There's some owners that are more involved than others. They're always watching. But I would say the ownership right now is watching with a keener eye than ever, because they're sensitive to this moment in history, because they're taking over the whole landscape and they want to make a statement that they actually know what the hell they're doing.
I was always, 6 years since the Raptors won. Because of the ownership of the Raptors and the Leafs, and everybody understands what comes out of going and winning the championship. The template is there. It's in-house. Everybody understands where that goes. Why there wasn't more pressure put on for the Leafs to follow or for the Jays to follow, because you know what's there. You know what happens. Team wins, big parade, and you see the ramifications of it for the next 2 years. You almost have 2 years of grace. I mean, the Raptors still are riding somewhat on the grace of that championship.
Well, tell that to Masai Ujiri.
Well, but they are.
I mean, another job.
I think, but that's when things were bad, people would go, "Wow, the guy in charge is the guy who built the championship."
Well,
so he's going to figure it out.
There's
a grace period.
You're right. That's why Masai Ujiri is still a very marketable basketball executive.
Yeah,
because he's got that thing in his back pocket, right? He's got a ring around his finger. He's got an incredible trade history on his resume. And yeah, the last few years haven't gone as well.